Every season we preface things with, you don't necessarily need a busy season to have a bad season. That's really the statement to live by. And for us this year was both busy and bad, especially as we got towards the second half. We had major landfalling systems back to back, Florence and Michael, both unique in their own way. Florence's legacy will no doubt be that historic flooding that he brought, but Michael, the record storm surge, the incredible damage that wasn't just limited to the coast, but areas well inland, and the strongest storm to ever make landfall there in the Florida Panhandle. And within 1 month, around the second week of September, we had Florence. Second week of October, we had Michael.
Yeah, we spent the whole month talking about Florence. It was a long-lived system, and it was slow once it got to the coast. Florence and Michael brought to my mind, when I think back to this year, of the significant forecast challenges that we had, but also some of the forecast successes. One of them is with Florence. Even though the intensity forecast was too high, we knew days in advance, Alex, that this was going to slow down when it got to the coast. We could see the flooding disaster coming from a long way away. So number 6 on the list here is days ahead. We know a lot about tropical cyclone track, including not just where it's going to go, but how fast it might be moving. We know something about Genesis, where they're going to form. We had a really good idea about Florence forming, and Michael, we had a pretty good idea. But on intensity, with Florence, we were too high before landfall, and with Michael, we were continuously too low, always having to catch up. Michael surprised all of us on how strong it got.
A lesson that we sort of learned last year, but then got reinforced this year. These slow-moving hurricanes are becoming more and more a problem. Yeah,
so 2 years in a row with Harvey and Florence, we had a really slow-moving hurricane that caused an inland flood disaster, not as a major hurricane. And remember, Alex, earlier this year we talked about that journal article, a scientific paper that came out that documented overall, over decades, the forward speed of Atlantic tropical cyclones is slowing down measurably. So this is something that worries me. You don't even have to have a major hurricane. You can have a slow-moving tropical storm or Cat 1 or 2, and you can have a water disaster.
Yeah, number 4, changing the hurricane category system will not change the issue of weaker systems that are bringing us those water issues.
Now, granted, that's my opinion, but if you think about it, after Florence, there was a lot of discussion about, well, it was forecast to be a 3 or a 4, and it came ashore not as a major hurricane, but it was still a major disaster. But that's something we were saying ahead of time, and you can't uncategorize yourself out of the atmosphere, throwing us weaker wind systems, but large, slow-moving water disasters, inland flooding and storm surge. It's going to happen again. Can't uncategorize yourself out of that problem.
Absolutely. So something that we can remember and hopefully keep in mind next year.